Hello, this is Gwen. Today is Wednesday, June the 20th, 2018, and it's about 11:22 or so p.m. And earlier today I was on one of the live streams with Q Butter. Please look up Q Butter, spelled Quebutter. He has a school up in New York or New Jersey, up in the Northeast, and it's a black school. And I love his work. He's a builder. He mostly focuses on math, science, and technology and such. But anyway, he's got a school and a center that he runs up there. Anyway, I was up there in one of the live streams, and he was talking about his um, one of his relatives that was in Vietnam. And during the course of the conversation, I didn't realize that um, young black people didn't know as much about Vietnam as I thought they did. Did. So that's what I'm going to do on this video is to focus on Vietnam, some of the history, and some of the things that are relevant right now. Because if we don't know our history, then we will absolutely repeat our mistakes. And this is apropos now because of some of the things that are going on around the country. And workers and things don't know that they don't have to do something immoral just because they were ordered to. Okay, so on this, with my overview, I'm going to talk about moral responsibility. If you're in the military or in any government agency or even in any agency or working for somebody or doing anything in your life, you're going to always be accountable for what you do. Don't let somebody talk about forgiveness and I was following orders and all that junk. No, you're going to be morally responsible and you're going to be legally responsible. Please be aware that they change laws at the drop of a hat. What was legal one minute is illegal the next, and you're going to be out there. That's what one of the lessons that Vietnam showed. And over the years, it's been true. Another thing I'm going to discuss is don't sell your soul because you're going to still be accountable. And so people be telling you to do stuff that's immoral. You got to be aware of that and make your decision. I'm also going to talk about Agent Orange, and I'm going to talk about how it was sprayed and the long lasting effects. So let's get on with it. Let me see if need to, I can do it in my overview. Okay, let me start up here. Now, with your moral responsibility, among the things that happened in Vietnam was they were ordered to do things that were considered crimes against humanity at a later date. Now, when you're getting ordered to do something that you don't even like yourself because it's immoral to your soul, and yet your sergeant or commander or whoever is telling you to do it and you go do it, you're going to still be accountable. What Vietnam showed was that when those soldiers came home, they got put on trial. They had to explain to Congress and to legal systems why they did what they did. And the thing I was following orders wasn't enough. Okay? They had Vietnam soldiers, veterans, sitting on TV explaining themselves for some of the things they did. Other things that happened when they came out of there was as they were getting off the planes, people were shouting at them, calling baby killers and all that. American people don't do that no more because it did something horrible to the veterans who were coming out because they were doing what they were told. They at least did show up. A lot of the politicians that you see nowadays were actually people who dodged the draft. And those who did show up are wearing that as a badge of honor in the politicians. For those of you who don't know me, in my previous videos, I've already mentioned this, but I'm going to mention it again. I'm a Vietnam veteran. Right now, I'm in my 60s. I lived during those days. Okay, I saw what happened during the Vietnam War. I saw what happened on the news, and I was in the military at the time. I was at Eglin Air Force Base being a Vietnam veteran. When the war ended, the refugees, the Vietnamese refugees that were collaborators with the American soldiers, couldn't stay in Vietnam, so they had a boat lift to get them out of Vietnam, and where they came to was Eglin Air Force Base, and that's where I was. I remember that time very well. Okay, I remember looking at the news and seeing the helicopters take off, and I said, "Oh wow, it looks like Americans are running from the war." And that's exactly what it looked like with the last three helicopters leaving Vietnam. Only people were left with the news reporters reporting them leaving because that's what they were doing, and the people and the soldiers were running to catch that last helicopter out. And then they did the boat lift, getting the Vietnamese collaborators out because they couldn't stay in Vietnam. America lost that war, but when I was a girl growing up, I was taught that America, well, war had a moral. I was taught war had a moral contingent or a moral aspect, and that if you were just and moral when you have a war, you would win. So thus, America won the Civil War and the Revolutionary War because they were moral. And I was taught that in school, and I grew up believing that until I saw Americans running away from the Vietnam War, and I said, "Oh, that means that we weren't justified in being in that war." That was the first awakening. It that was just my history I was taught. I remember learning that in about the ninth. No, I was about 9 years old or so in elementary school. They even talked that about the World War I and two, and all the wars. That if you're moral and you have a just cause, you'd win the war. I learned differently since then that the one with the guns win the war. However, Vietnam, the way they fought their war was different. They fought with every man, woman, child, plant, animal, building, blade of grass. They had so many ways to get rid of those soldiers because the ones who were fighting were united. So that little bitty country really did kick America's butt. The only other country I've seen that's like that is the Taliban. They've been kicking everybody's butt because nobody's took them down. But during this time of Vietnam War, I remember watching the news reports of the soldiers who came back from Vietnam, who did their things, having to explain themselves. There were people who went to jail for what they did in Vietnam. That's why I'm saying, A, you were morally responsible, and B, you may well be legally responsible. Do not sell your soul because somebody told you to. Always have a moral line that you won't cross, and then stand by it despite what it'll take. I give you another example because I just recently did a moral line that I wouldn't cross. I work at a federal agency, and what they do is distribute benefits to people who qualify. And I'm one of the ones who process the cases. In fact, I process the cases that are on appeal. That means they went through the first time and got denied, and then they're given another chance. Anyway, some of these cases are very old because just like every government agency, the worker is overwhelmed because of budget cuts. And we're always understaffed. Trust and believe, government personnel are understaffed and overworked. Our little workaday people, these are the worker bees, the people who just work every day. Okay, so I was told by my boss to work a particular case because this case had special preference because somebody high up in government wanted it done. Well, the government official never said to do the case. They always send an inquiry about the case. That is, a person who wants their case completed or is worried about their case, they write to their congressman. I'm gonna go ahead and say the name, the congressman, and then the congressman does never see the letter, but the congressional liaison or their representative will write a letter to the agency I work for, and they would inquire about it. This agency, because they're stupid, and this agency, because they are I'm trying to say something politically correct, but you already know what I think of it, so I'm just gonna leave it alone. This agency will jump the gun and then try to get the case rushed through. But us workers in general don't see that as fair, because the people whose cases are already waiting in line should be the priority, unless they're in special expedite status like terminally ill, imminent eviction, advanced age, like in the 90s or something like that age. Those are special expedite status cases. But somebody who's just getting a congressional inquiry, and mind you, Congressperson never said rush my case through. This agency takes it upon themselves to rush the case through, or try to. They don't anymore. And so when my supervisor said, "Gwen, I need you to rush this case because it's a congressional," I said no. And he says, "No, I'm telling you to work this case because it's a congressional." He sent an email to me, and I smirked. I looked to see if it was in expedite status. It wasn't. So I wasn't going to work it. So I got up off my desk and asked, did he have a minute? Came in there and sat down and told him, I'm not going to work that case. That's not an expedite. That case is gonna wait its turn like the rest of them. And he said, Gwen, I'm asking you to work this case. I'm directing you to work this case. I said, and I was laughing at him. I said, in essence, it'll be my honor to get in trouble doing the right thing. It is absolutely my privilege to get written up or in trouble when I'm doing the right thing. I said, and I didn't care what he did. I knew what I wasn't going to do, because to me, even though it might have been a simple thing in terms, it did not sit well with me when you are just rushing a case through, when I know there are people's cases waiting in line for me to work. And everybody whose case I work is going to get their fair shot on my desk in front of me, and they're going to get my undivided attention and the best I can do, and I'm going to focus on them. And they each wait their turn respectively. And so having somebody jump in line because somebody important you believe wants their case worked, I wasn't going to let that happen. And so I was laughing at him and said, I told him I'd be honored to get in trouble about that. That's a moral stand. Okay? That's a moral stance. Even though I was in jeopardy of losing everything I ever got and all of my way of life, or at least getting written up and no telling what else, I would have been honored to. He left me alone. I never did get in trouble. I think some months later, somebody else asked me that, and I asked was it expedite, and the answer was no. And I said, can you put that in writing? I mean, as he asked me, and I tried to get him to put that rush that case through in writing, because I was going to blow the lid off of it. And I told him, I can't find nobody stupid enough to put that in writing to ask us to do these. So this agency has nothing in writing when they do. The guy was trying to tell me it's a policy or a courtesy. No, put it in writing, because I was going to blow the lid off of that, because it's not fair. Now, when there's an expedite case, I am honored to do their case, but that's a moral stance. I have done that a lot of times on various jobs. When I have managers or supervisors, and these are federal agents, including the military, saying things that might sound like it's getting ready to be illegal, I will say something to them like, "Whatever you're doing, if it's illegal, don't do it in front of me. Don't let me know about it, because I don't play." And they knew that. I never saw nobody doing nothing wrong, because they already knew where I stood. And I would happily not do something that's immoral. Like, for example, these border control agencies that are messing with the Mexicans and stuff. By the way, check out Lisa Cabrera's video on that, because I needed that, because she helped me get that back in perspective in my mind, because I was having a fit about it in my soul. Then she got me back on track. I appreciate that, because I had, and she got me perspective knowing that that's been happening to black people all along and hasn't stopped. And she's absolutely right. Check out her video. But meanwhile, I was having a mental anguish knowing about these people in this situation because it's on the news and it's forefront. And I know that if I was on the border in one of those agencies or one of the people working there, that I wouldn't do it. I just wouldn't do it. And you couldn't make me send me home because because I would consider that immoral, and I won't do nothing immoral to somebody else like that. So no matter what you're doing, don't put me in a position where I have to do something immoral because I won't. And I don't care what you got threaten me with. I can lose it all and live in a box with one pair of shoes. I don't care. There's things I won't sell my soul for, and doing some effed up junk like that and other things is stuff that you sell your soul for. Now, what I'm going to talk about is what we call the My Lai massacre. This is one of many things that they were investigating, but this is one of the very famous ones, and it's called the My Lai massacre. We call it My Lai. They're pronouncing it My Lai, and I did a Google search for it, and it's an easy one. But this is what happened, and the reason why I'm showing you this is because A, you gotta know what kind of people you're dealing with, and B, you gotta know the extent of what people can order you to do, and you gotta get ready to understand that. Okay, so I'm gonna hit this link. I don't intend to play it if I can help it, but these are several of the stories on it, and I picked out some that are just that I plan to just show the pictures. But there are plenty of stories on this that you could look at to see what the Vietnam War was all about and why it is such a big deal. Okay, and I'm just taking a detour here, looking at seeing what they uploaded. Now, so, and this is one that's interview with a veteran. This is a black veteran that's the main person on this interview, but um, the black veterans were not the majority. This gentleman is one of the ones who wants to speak up, and you should listen to his story because he's giving you insights on what he was told to do. I'm gonna try to do it without it playing, so I'm gonna put it on pause now, and then we're just gonna bounce around. These are the stories. This is the veteran, and he's telling his story, and it's several parts to it, like 5 of 7 and all of this. Okay, and they talk about what he did and some of the things that happened. It goes on about the Vietnam person's perspective and the veteran's perspective, and he's telling you how he felt and how he feels now and the extent of some of that went on. Okay, so that's a link to it, and you should watch that when you get a chance to. It's about 8 minutes long. As you can see, I just speeded it up. I mean, I just, showing the pictures. And if you ever want to have something go faster, press this little settings button, and then you can adjust the speed to faster or slower. Sometimes I want to hear things fast and get through, so I put it on 1.5 or 125, but I got this on normal right now. Sometimes people just, talk slower or whatever. And so that's what you do if you wanted to speed up a little bit. So that's the search that I used, and this is one of the videos. And here's another one that I want you to look at. Okay. And I'm going to try to catch it before it plays. These are the bodies of the people of the My Lai massacre, some of them. What it was that the American soldiers were told to land in this village and kill everything. So they killed men, women, and children because there were no combatants there. But they were ordered to kill them. Okay? They were ordered to kill everybody. And so there are pictures of the remains. My Lai wasn't the only place that they were ordered to kill like that. That's why Vietnam is such a big deal to this day. That was a controversy that was going on, and that was what happened. We're This country hasn't learned enough lessons like this. Okay, they're explaining. This is about 2 minutes or so, and they're telling you what happened, and it's still there. These pictures like this were in magazines that were sent home. Life magazine was one of the big ones. That's the one where you see the famous picture of the little girl with the mustard gas on her, where her clothes are torn off. They interviewed her in later years, says she's okay, but she's running screaming and with her clothes ripped off. I mean, not ripped off, but burned off because of the acid that they sprayed as mustard gas. It's an acid on the skin. Military people are trained to, when there's mustard gas bombing, we're trained to cover and get where it's not at and what to do, to put on a mask and do all that other stuff that we have to do. Various things like that. Okay, they train you to do that in the military because they know that it's dangerous. So I got down here, just following orders is not enough. If somebody tells you to go do something like that, don't be worried about your paycheck. Don't be worried about staying out of jail. I would rather go to jail than to do something like that. Okay. When I was in the military, I was one of the trainers, and somebody asked me something about a moral crisis. Um, if I was told to do something, da da da, should I do it? I said, you have to determine where you stand and then make your choice because you're going to be held accountable. Like I said, it was legal at the time when they did it. That was a lawful order, considered as, okay? They would have been in trouble if they didn't. But you got to figure out whether that trouble is worth your soul. And two, whenever there's if you read the books about those statutes and things that govern your agency or wherever you work, they have a little provision down there about what exactly is a lawful order. And they usually have something about morals. Okay? Your boss can't legally order you to go shoot somebody. If you're working at a truck stop, nobody can tell you to go shoot somebody because that's not a lawful order. If it's within the scope of your job, that's what you do. Okay? So make sure you read the regs and things that pertain to your work or where you work at. I've disobeyed orders a lot of times in the military. I've done that. I've done that and did not give a damn. They needed. I was bad, really. But I was always right because I always read the regs. I knew the rules. There are things they couldn't do to me because I already knew the rules better than they did. And I knew how much trouble I was going to get in and how much I won't. And I knew what statutes and provisions to countermand what they were telling me to do. Because I read the rules. That's the first thing I did when I joined the military. First got to my permanent base, I sat down with those big ass reg books and turned it and read it page by page. Page by page. Several of those 2 inch, 4 inch binders, those thick binders, notebook binders. Yeah, page by page, I knew the rules. Okay. Now, this next part is about Agent Orange. Military veterans can get service connected disability payments based on their exposure to Agent Orange and the disability that they have because of it. They get money paid because of their exposure to Agent Orange. And what I'm going to do is pull up the reg for that. Reg is in regulation. Let me take a sip of water. There, there. Now, this is the search screen for 3.309. This is the CFR, Code of Federal Regulations, and this is diseases subject to presumptive service connection. That is, if you were in Vietnam and you were exposed to Agent Orange or any of the other herbicides that they were using, because there was Agent Blue and Agent something else and something else. Um, if you were exposed to Agent herbicides and you have a disability as a result of it, that's not a disability from other some other similar exposures, like if you were in Vietnam exposed to Agent Orange, right? But you, as a civilian, you came back and worked in the factory that made herbicides for civilian use, then you would have trouble proving that your exposure to herbicides in Vietnam was really what caused your disability when you had the same exposure as a civilian in later years. So, but if there's no other thing like that, then it's a good chance you could get monies paid to you because of that disability, depending on the extent of the disability. And so they do pay people. So what I'm gonna do is click on this presumptive service connection button, or not. What is it doing? Waiting on a response. Okay. This is the reg, and these are some of the thingamajigs. This is a bad one though. You have to let's ignore this one. You have to work too hard to get that. Let me see, where's my one I already got pulled up. That's a search screen, and so let me see. Here we go. There. Oh shoot. Now, this is the ones that that's also on that search screen, and I do have a link to it. But this is what it looks like: ECFR, Electronic Code of Federal Regulations. And so, if you are a veteran and if you are exposed to herbicides, as well as some of the other illnesses and injuries, okay, yeah, herbicide agents, E down here, herbicides agents during active duty military, there's a whole lot of illnesses that you could get presumptive service connection for. And here's a list of them. Diabetes mellitus, or diabetes type 2, is one of the biggest. A lot of veterans have already got that. Okay. And this right here. There are websites dedicated to veterans that discuss their exposure to Agent Orange and what they go through. And these illnesses are right there. As if you're associated with something, another presumptive is the water at Camp Lejeune. They have these illnesses. They also have presumptive service connection for various things like radiation exposures, I think former prisoner of war and tropical diseases and so forth. But if you're a veteran or know a veteran, you should let them know about that. Some veterans don't even know that they could get benefits. Okay, so we just looked at that. And the next one I'm going to talk about is some of the things that happen to the Vietnamese that are over there too. This is a report from an out that I just got on Google. That's all I did was typing Agent Orange, and ew, I don't mean to do that. I don't mean to play it, but this is just some of the stuff on there that they talked about. I'm just clicking through because this is an excellent report, and it shows how the land was fertile and lush, and then how it became desolate. I think this is one of them. I could probably play it and be okay, but I don't want to get another copyright doohickey thingy, a copyright what you call it thing. And I looked at the terms of use and the regs for it, and looks like I would be able to do this under the fair use thingy and the um, um, thing where you put the links in there, but I don't trust them. And I'm already subscribed to their thing for creator thing. I can't think of the word, but it's because I'm in their house and I want to play by their rules. So I don't want to mess up their stuff. Don't want to do it wrong, but I might do it wrong. So I don't. But I want to be cautious. But anyway, these are the drums for the Agent Arms that they were spraying all over Vietnam, and you should review this. Toward the end is what I want you to get to. And these are the people, the Vietnamese that still lived in Vietnam, and they're talking about the illnesses and injuries that are present. As you can see me scrolling these little bitty things, because these people are suffering from the illnesses. They got birth defects and deformities. Well, not them. Well, somewhere in there, I looked at it, I think. Let me see, where was it? Not only do the Vietnamese have bad birth defects, so do some of the American kids that are from. I'm gonna close this up because I don't even want that to stay on too long. Um, so do some of the American people, soldiers who got exposed to Agent Orange. They have bad illnesses, and their children have illnesses because it affects their children. It did. It really did. And so I they get benefits for that if they can prove it. And let me see what this was. Oh yeah, these are some of the links that I want you to go ahead and look at yourself, because these are, like, for example, the children of Agent Orange, what it does to the body. Okay, those are things that can tell you more about what happened with the herbicide exposure and the extent of the damage, not only to the veteran but to the veteran's offspring, and might be for future generations hereafter thereafter. So this is a good good starting point if you're interested in that. I'm gonna go ahead and click and see if I can see. I didn't look at all of them. Okay, it was a lush green land, and then they sprayed the Agent Orange. I mean the herbicides on there, and it took years before it grew back. This is one of the pictures I was thinking about. You see that? Now, the reason why this is important is because, just like in that earlier stream we were doing, we got to understand what we dealing with. There are certain things that not everybody will do. Okay, as people, there are just certain things we can't do because we got too many parameters stopping us from doing that. Okay, we don't think like that. Caucasoids are not the only people who project. We're projecting on them too. They project their meanness on us, thinking we're going to act like them, and we project our non meanness on them, thinking that they're going to act like us. That is not the case. Both of us are wrong. We have no business projecting how we handle things on them any more than they should project how they handle things on us. We don't do what they do. That's why they run the world, because they are violent enough to do it. We don't do that. We don't think like that. Okay, so we got to stop rejecting our method of handling things on them. We got that. If you don't get nothing else out of this, stop projecting how you handle things on other people and races. That has not worked out for us. That has not worked out for us. We're doing things that other people don't do for us. We got us. We're marching out there trying to help with that crisis with the Hispanic people, and I commend them for having a heart, because we do. We have a big heart, but nobody's ever done that for us. To this day, they haven't not done anything like that for us. And that's why I was so grateful for Lisa um, video for making me get that back through my head, because I tried to think of somebody who's done that to that extent like they're doing now, and they haven't. And every video we see all day long about somebody doing something messed up to us, we don't have nobody championing for us like that. They barely even get a slap on the wrist nowadays. So I needed her to help me put that in, to put get me back on the right track, get that back in perspective. And this one is a final one that talks about long lasting effects. Oh yeah, that was that video. Never mind. I think it's the same one, the retro report. Well, we won't be playing that, but and I'm gonna drop that off. But anyway, you've got my point in all of this, right? That there are certain things that we can't do like we used to. We gotta change, and that's why I do advocate separation, because we are also a persecuted people. In my position, we're a persecuted people, so we need our homeland. We need a special, isolated. Ooh, excuse me. We need a specific, isolated place in the Americas that's on a coast next to an ocean, that can be our own homeland, where we have our own civic organizations, schools, hospitals, establishments. That's all our own, because we don't have friends and we're persecuted and being hunted. We don't have equal protection under the law, because there are people who would be in jail for harming us like they would anybody else. And that's not happening. So we're persecuted people. Okay, so that's all I have to say for this one. I'm going to end this now and do something else later. But it was important that you get the gist of how the Vietnam thing happened. I've discussed it in other videos. I could go on and on and on and on, but this is enough for this. I focused on what I needed to. Thank you for listening to me. Bye bye.